All right, our first story today is going to be about institutional investment and Bitcoin. Is there a correlation? So, Fidelity Digital Assets, they are the investment branch of Fidelity, as you guys will know. They just conducted a recent survey of about 700 some institutional investors from the United States and Europe to see what their interest, what their attitude, how their kind of tolerance or opinion of cryptocurrencies has changed if we consider cryptocurrency an asset class worthy of investing in. And as the metrics we will show you appear to show, that interest and confidence is growing, right? And those conclusions are not just mine. Those were posted by the president of Fidelity, Tom Jessup. He published a press release earlier today talking about this topic as well. Now, this is the press release from Mr. Jessup. Now, as I said, Fidelity Digital Assets is a crypto-focused subsidiary of mutual fund giant Fidelity Investments. They're based in the United States. And this survey was not just institutional investors, it was also fund managers. It was conducted between November of 2019 and March of 2020. The results were just published and outlined in this press release. So we're going to go over some of these findings briefly. Okay. So we are going to see that. So almost 80% of individuals that participated in this survey do find something appealing about the cryptocurrency markets as an asset class in and of themselves. 36% of survey respondents said that they are currently invested in cryptocurrencies. And 6 out of 10, that's 60%, if I can do math, believe that cryptocurrency does have a place in their investment portfolio somewhere. You know, maybe right there next to Boeing stock, maybe over here by physical silver, somewhere. US investors, as opposed to European investors that have cryptocurrency allocated in their portfolios, increased 5% from 22% to 27% in 2019. It may not seem like a big increase, but when we're talking about big players, this is a fairly significant movement. Now, of all investors, US and European, who do have exposure already to cryptocurrency, 60%, and this is interesting, I found this very interesting because we're seeing so much interest come into the Grayscale funds. Over 60% of those who have cryptocurrency in their portfolio say they buy those assets directly, meaning that they are likely doing their own self-custody. It's impossible to conclude that. It is possible that they are utilizing still some third-party service like BitPay or something like that. However, it does increase the percentage of individuals that certainly are using self-custody. In the United States, 22% of those invested in cryptocurrencies have exposure to cryptocurrencies via futures, so not physical holdings, right? And that is up from just 9% that have exposure in futures from an earlier study conducted in 2019. Over 25% of respondents are already holding Bitcoin, and 11% have exposure to Ethereum. Finally, 91% of respondents who are open to having cryptocurrencies in their portfolio expect to have at least 0.5% of their portfolio allocated to crypto assets in 5 years. And this is, while a small number, this is certainly a good number. And we've talked about it before. Whereas, if you look at all of the assets under management by Fidelity, if they move just 1% of their AUM into cryptocurrency, you're talking about a massive, massive raising of the overall market capitalization, right? Now, if we take a closer look at the 80% of institutional investors who reported finding something appealing about digital assets, remember, 80% of respondents said they do find digital assets appealing. We do find 3 characteristics that seem to be compelling, or as responded, are compelling reasons for investing in cryptocurrency from both United States and European investors, right? The first thing, so 36% reported their appeal to investing in cryptocurrency as it is uncorrelated to another asset class, right? As the leading reason for their interest in cryptocurrency. And this is a very common narrative. There's a lot of, now I would say that the facts do tend to dispute this somewhat. However, we have only really seen strong correlation between the stock market and the SPY recently, following kind of the March meltdown. And overall, it does more seem like a Bayesian random walk when we look at correlation between traditional markets and Bitcoin. Some days Bitcoin pumps, whereas the stock market is doing relatively nothing. When just about everything, when the entire market is in a risk-on rally and moving into assets in a wild way and getting away from currency because it's being debased due to inflation, due to money printing, then you're going to see all assets pretty much move in the same direction. So, looking at the correlation between any assets over the last few months, I think is incorrect because you're ignoring the fundamentals that individuals don't want to hold currency. So anybody who has, large amounts of currency don't want to be holding that because they know that that is going to be, that's worthless paper, and it's becoming more worthless as the days drag on. So not correlated to other assets, strongest reason why individuals are moving into Bitcoin. So a hedge against a hedge against other portions of their portfolio. At 34%, kind of going for the value, right? The innovative technology play as their primary attraction, right? Well, Bitcoin is the new big thing. This is the next Silicon Valley thing. So we're getting invested in this. This is a very popular narrative. Again, particularly if you go to these tech hub sectors like San Francisco. Of course, I was there for San Francisco Blockchain Week, and that VC mentality is certainly there and strong and cannot be ignored when we are trying to incentivize investment into Bitcoin. Now, finally, 33% reported a high potential of upside as the central draw to invest in this space. So overall, we've got a fairly good, blend there, right? About a third say, well, this is a hedge against my other holdings or hedge against inflation. The middle says, I want to be in the next sector. I want to be in the, I want to allocate my portfolio to the new big thing. I don't want to miss I missed the tech bubble. I missed the real estate bubble. I want to get into the cryptocurrency bubble. That would seem to say that we haven't seen that real bubble yet. And finally, the last third are like, well, we want to make money. This thing's going to pump, right? As the central draw to invest in the space. Now, interestingly, investors were also asked if things like Bitcoin being free from government control and full intervention was a big appeal, to which a quarter of those in Europe responded with yes, while only about 10% of United States-based investors cited as a reason. Resistance to government intervention as what drew their interest into cryptocurrency. Kind of highlighting that, at least for Fidelity investors anyways, the Europeans are a little bit more ahead as far as anti-statism. Go you guys. As for why such a trend was observed between the two big regions, right? The European investors and American investors, Jessup commented, talking to Bloomberg here, that Europe is probably more supportive and accommodating, likely due to what's going on in Europe right now, right? I don't want to say social unrest, but obviously political upheaval, negative interest rates in many countries. So Bitcoin begins to look more attractive when there are so many other assets that aren't paying any returns at this time. We're seeing a lot of companies cut dividends, for example, right? Now, as for what investors felt was the main obstacle to widespread institutional adoption of cryptocurrency as an asset class, three major concerns were cited, and we've heard these before. Obviously, price volatility, right? Price is just too volatile for me to feel secure with my investment in this on a day-to-day basis. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this is a talking point. However, in my opinion and in my experience, the price volatility doesn't concern me with long-term investments because I just simply look at, if I'm concerned about price volatility and overall my investment's performance, I just look at the kind of year to year to year to year gains, and I look at the fundamentals that are going on. And this shows me that, Bitcoin is going up in a fairly significant way, and all the fundamentals are aligning for that on a long-term scale. The second citation here is uncertainty around market manipulation. This certainly was a massive concern and still remains a concern for investment and kind of the public appeal of Bitcoin as something that's safe and secure and fine. However, we have seen big strides toward cleaning that up. For example, the Bitwise real volume. But overall, I would say that we've seen a pretty significant trend toward more accountability and more transparency from exchanges. And as well, I'm really excited about things like decentralized market making, right? That removes a lot of impetus for these things to happen. And finally, kind of a lack of fundamentals to appropriately gauge fair value. Now, I think this is entirely incorrect, but again, this is coming from them, right? So they're just expressing what they feel. And this is true for a traditional investor that is new to cryptocurrency. They are used to evaluating things like cash flow, debts, PE ratio of companies, obviously looking at lots of statistics and, countrywide situations, global economic factors to measure things like commodities. So certainly the lack of those easy fundamental metrics can be a challenge for them. Bitcoin has its own fundamentals, on-chain data, for example. For example, look at glassnodes. We didn't have glassnodes like last year. So just as this continues to spread and this on-chain data, and the longer Bitcoin survives, we get more and more fundamental value for these institutional investors to more appropriately gauge their investments into cryptocurrency, right? However, among those doing the survey from the United States, the strength of these concerns, like how much these affected their decision, how negatively these affected their decision, was said to have dropped substantially since last year's survey. And this implies that investors are getting more comfortable with Bitcoin as it matures as an asset class. And according to Jessup, these investor concerns are largely focused on issues that will resolve themselves as the market infrastructure continues to evolve for Bitcoin. And as I said earlier, just the longer that it survives, right? So this survey, this digital asset survey, is conducted annually. And this most recent one, as I said, had about 774 institutional investors, 393 of which were in the United States, 381 which were in Europe. And they include managers at pensions, family offices, digital and traditional hedge funds, financial advisors, endowments, and foundations. So I think that we're going to see more individuals participate in the survey moving forward. And it does give us a good glimpse into kind of stuff that we already know, honestly. But it's just so easy for that stuff to be thrown around and mischaracterized. And a lot of individuals that are participating in cryptocurrency at the retail level meme what's going on at the institutional level. So, but this is just cold hard data that the narrative that institutions are coming is not incorrect, but it's just slow and it takes time. And we are seeing massive progress and growth in that sector. So for those who in any way, shape, or form point to a lack of institutional involvement or excitement or interest, really are not looking at the facts. So I think this is incredibly positive for Bitcoin moving forward. And I think we will continue to see these metrics grow and more larger investors find a place in their portfolio for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, as they rightly should. Let me know your guys' thoughts and comments in the section down below. Question for this segment for you. Put it in the comment section. What's your main reason for investing in cryptocurrency, right? What's your main, let's say crypto, let's say Bitcoin. What's your main reason for investing in Bitcoin? Although you can branch out and answer about other cryptocurrencies if you so desire. What is your main impetus? What brought you to Bitcoin? What keeps you investing in Bitcoin right now? And what is your biggest holdup for investing in Bitcoin? Why have you not allocated more funds into Bitcoin, right? Is it the price, volatility, lack of regulation? Let me know. Comment section down below. I'd be fascinated to hear your guys' opinions and thoughts.